Barbara Ford, and this is Kitchen Table Productions, a show all about living well with low carb. Today I'm going to make one of my favorite fall treats, pumpkin cheesecake. This cheesecake is light and delicious. Now I know it's a little pricey carb-wise. One serving is about 10 carbs, but I can show you some tips and tricks to get that down to about 5 carbs. More on that later though. Right now it's cheesecake time, so my first step to get started on this cheesecake is to set my oven to 250 degrees. Okay, now I'm making a small batch of individual cheesecakes today, and I'm starting with 1 brick of cream cheese that I've had sitting out on my counter now for about half an hour to get nice and soft. I do give the proportions for a larger cheesecake on my website. If you want a bigger one, that's where you need to check. Now I'm just going to beat this for a good couple of minutes here. It's always a good idea to stop and scrape down this bowl at least once. This is really the only chance I have to get any lumps out of this cream cheese. I want to beat it for a good 2-3 minutes till it gets nice and smooth. I'm going to add in a half a cup of granulated Splenda. There, it's looking pretty good. I'm just going to add in the rest of my ingredients now. I'm going to start with 2 eggs. I'm going to go ahead and put those in there. Scrape my bowl a bit. Always a good idea to scrape. Whenever you have it stopped, might as well. I'm just going to give this another 30 seconds or so to get those eggs incorporated in really well. There we go. I will add in a half a cup of canned pumpkin. Make sure you're using pumpkin, not pumpkin pie filling. There we are. A half a tablespoon of vanilla. A half a tablespoon of freshly grated nutmeg. And just a pinch of kosher salt. Now I'm going to scrape my bowl one last time. Even consistency is the key to good cheesecake, and the key to even consistency is a lot of scraping. There we are. Now we're ready to pour. Alright, now as for the crust, I don't like crust for low-carb cheesecakes. They add a lot of carbs, they add a lot of calories, and usually they're just not that good. And truthfully, they're just not needed. What I use instead are these ceramic ramekins. Now this is a nice 8-ounce size, perfect for my cheesecakes today. The ceramic will actually help the heat move very slowly into our cheesecake, and that's what we need, a nice slow movement of heat into the custard, which is basically what a cheesecake is. These are usually only $1 or $2 at a good home supply store, and if you're a low carber, you're committed to low carb, these are a must. They're a great investment. I highly recommend it. Now I'm arranging 3 of these here in the bottom of a deep baking dish. This is actually the broiler pan that came with my oven. And I've also got this kettle of water that I'm putting on to boil. I just want to divide my cheesecake evenly among these 3. Okay, now I'm putting these in the oven. Notice I don't have the hot water in here yet. It's because it's a lot safer to get your pan in position or close to position first before you put the water in. I'm just going to fill this up until the water comes up about halfway up the side of these ramekins. Now here's the tricky part, because as gently as possible I need to try to get this pushed into my oven without sloshing. There we are. Now I'm going to let these cook for 30 minutes. Okay, now my half an hour is up. I'm just going to give these a little wiggle. Alright, this is looking pretty good. They're still a little wet in the middle, and that's what we want because they're not really done cooking yet. I'm turning off my oven, and I'm going to let this air out for about 1 minute, then I'm going to close it up again and let it sit for another 45 minutes. Alright, it's 45 minutes later. These are done. And I'm just going to remove these and put them in my refrigerator to chill. Notice I'm leaving this pan of water where it is. I'm not crazy enough to try to move this yet. It's still far too hot. Just let it sit in your oven until it gets nice and cold, then you can just pick it up and dump it in the sink. Here's my finished pumpkin cheesecake. I've garnished that with a little bit of whipped cream that I whipped up myself with some liquid Splenda and added in a few of my spiced pecans. Now the recipe for the spiced nuts is also available at my website. Now this is good. Light, creamy, decadent, but it is about 10 carbs, and that's a bit pricey if you're looking to lose weight. I do know a trick or two to get this down to about 5 carbs. Trick number 1 is this. It's a light silken tofu. Now it's soft, it doesn't have much flavor of its own, and it is chock full of great protein. I can substitute up to 1/2 of the cream cheese from equal weight of this silken tofu. Now this 1-pound brick I have here is listed as 0 carbs for 1/5 of the container. Now being paranoid, I'm going to call that 4 carbs for the whole thing. Now check your packaging though, because these things can vary. This one substitution saves me a little over 3 carbs, which is about 1 carb per serving. Now the problem here is that the consistency isn't quite as smooth, and it tastes just slightly different. It's much closer to an Italian cheesecake, which is actually made with ricotta. Now to get it as smooth as possible, I'd actually recommend blending it and the pumpkin together in a blender before adding them to the cream cheese. Now this is my second trick, liquid sucralose. Now sucralose is the generic name for Splenda. Now I've never found this in my local grocery store, which is why I don't usually mention it on my show. But this is great stuff because it doesn't have any added bulking carbs. Now there are several different brands available online. I got mine through Amazon.com, and this little bottle was $13. And that seems expensive until you do the math. This little bottle has roughly the sweetening equivalency of 10 pounds of sugar. To convert it to Splenda, it's about 3 large bags of the granulated Splenda. Now most brands seem to go for about 1 drop equals 1 teaspoon of sugar. That would work out to 48 drops for 1 cup, or 24 drops in the cheesecakes I made today. That's a savings of 12 carbs, or 4 carbs per serving. Also, if you're anything like me, you tend to go light on the sucralose because you know it adds carbs. Well, if you use this, you can make things just as sweet as you want, and you don't have to worry about the carbs at all. So if you can, I'd highly recommend you investing in some liquid sucralose. It's good stuff. Well, that's my pumpkin cheesecake. As you saw, I made a bunch of individual cheesecakes today. Remember, this should be considered a treat. You don't really want to have too much on hand. Now, having said that, if you do have a lot of people coming over, I do have a larger version available on my website. Now, I hope you try this cheesecake. I think it is just fabulous and a great way to usher in the fall. I'm Jessica Brevort, and this has been Kitchen Table Productions.